Alright, Mark here, and I'm going to show you what I use to help me with flight planning for flights. A lot of people that I've talked to have asked, well, they've seen some of my flight planning and asked where I do it and how I do it. Now, there's several different great tools out there for flight planning these days, but one of the ones that I like to use computer-based wise, I use Garmin Pilot app for my iPad and both on my iPhone. It's great for weather and flight planning as well. But sometimes I like to plan on my computer and also have a hard copy that I can print off as well and carry with me in the airplane. And this is especially helpful when planning cross countries or when you're preparing for a cross country or preparing for your check ride, having a very nice clean and efficient way to do flight planning, and then also have a hard copy with you in case anything were to happen to your device or whatnot. So what I use is the AOPA's flight planning, and I believe you do have to be a member to use it. I'm not sure. I'm already logged in, but if you're a member, which it's very inexpensive to become a member in a great organization that I highly recommend you joining if you're not a member already, then what you do is you go to the AOPA's main website here, which we're there already and logged in, and we go to flight planning. Now, the AOPA does offer, along with this program, FlyQ EFB, which is for the iPad, and then FlyQ Pocket. I believe this application you have to actually pay for, just similar to the Garmin Pilot. I used it before. It's a great program. Highly recommend it. It's not what I personally use. I use the Garmin Pilot just because I find the features there a little bit better to my liking, but try each of them out and see which one works best for you. But as far as for the computer-based, I just have not found anything that I enjoy better and works better for me than FlyQ Web. So then you just click on this FlyQ Web, and it loads up on a piece of paper there. You can actually have overlays so that it will have weather and airports and so on. And you can search all of that as well. But for flight planning, we can put here and practice. So just for our flight plan there. And then I'm the pilot. Now you can go into the settings here, and you can load in different pilots in different aircraft and use those as well. So if somebody else was on it, or you have several different aircraft that you fly on a regular basis, you can load them into the system so they're already in there for you. So what we've got here is the name of the flight plan, so that when we create it, we can actually store it in our history and go back and load it up there again. But then we have our pilot picked, and we're going to be flying. Let's go ahead and say that we're flying November 158 Sierra, Quebec. Okay, and let's say we're just going to fly direct from 05 Charlie, which is Griffith Aviation, the airport that 158 Sierra, Quebec is based out of. And let's say we're going to go ahead and take a flight down to St. Louis Regional. So we'll put the identifier for that in, Kilo Alpha Lima November, I believe. And we're just going to go ahead and go direct, so we don't have any waypoints here. The time right now is about 6 o'clock, so let's say that we're taking off. You can change that right here if you wanted to for a different time and different dates as well. So but we could go ahead and put that in there. This is Central Time obviously here, but then Zulu's right there. And we're just flying VFR as of right now, and then GPS direct, and we're going to optimize for wind. We just have one soul on board. Our fuel's 100. Our max altitude that I have put in here, and we could change these settings if you want. You could put in other settings if you want. And then the minimum cruise would be at 2,000, and then we'll just go ahead and hit create. So we create this this plan here, and we see it load up here, and we can actually see it from Griffith, and then our flight down to St. Louis Regional. And anywhere time along the flight, if we want to drag it, we can actually pull in closer and see our destination airport. It takes a little bit of time for it to load up here on our screen. But and we could do that. Also, we could actually change the route by dragging it as well if we wanted to. We can drag it like if we had a waypoint, so we can do it that way. Or we can also one of the things that I really like, as well as is just being able to tell the distance at time. It tells us all of that information right here, how much fuel we're going to burn, because we've had that in there. And then I also like to go ahead and print it off. Now there's two different options here that we can use, and that is the Nav Style 1 option, and that can load up here. And forgive me because it takes a little bit of time. And that shows us our basic information all the way through here that we have, and our route and our departure and so on and so forth. Okay, that's one of the options, and that one might work well for you. The one that I prefer to use is actually the Nav Style 2. I just think it's a better way. It works good for me, and it works really nice because I can put my hobs in and hobs out, especially if you're renting an aircraft or you're part of a club and you keep track of that. Plus, you can put some remarks there, and I like to use this empty space where you can even take it from the airport facility directory, write down a few frequencies, maybe write a little diagram of what runway and airport you think that you'll be using there, and some information along there. So it leaves a nice little blank spot there. But what I really like is when I'm taking IFR flights, I can put my clearance right there, or what I expect them to say to me, what I have filed, and then make small corrections really quick, and it makes it really efficient. And it's got everything spelled out pretty quick. So your location, 05 Charlie Griffith Maryville, St. Louis Regional, and obviously we're not using any airways, but it gives us our altitude beginning and taking off, and then also our magnetic heading, the true airspeed in knots, and then how much we have remaining and the fuel burned and so on and so forth. So it makes it really nice, and then estimated time en route, and then we can write in there what the actual time en route was and compare the differences, write down our time off. So it really has a lot of good information in here that is really good. So that's one way of filing it. Now, let's say that we weren't going to file direct like what we did just now. Okay, so what we could do here is we could put some waypoints in as well if we wanted to make some changes here. So let's say that we're going to make some changes, or if we just wanted to do a reverse route, we could always just hit this and reverse it, and it would tell us our exact difference like that. So let's say on our reverse route going back, we want to go ahead and add some waypoints in. So let's say we're not going to fly direct back because weather's maybe a little bit bad, or we want to our GPS maybe is not working right, or we just want to fly VORs for whatever reason. Then what we could do is put the intersections in here for us. So let's go ahead and put Troy intersection in here, and then we'll put in Spinner intersection and Piatone intersection in here, and then also the Chicago Heights. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and apply these changes here and see how our route changes. Okay, so it's updating here, giving us our fixed. So we select it, the one that we want. Okay, so that changes in there, and then down to Troy, put that one in, and then Spinner, select that one, and it also gives us our frequency, which is really helpful as well. And then now it's updating the grid. Okay, so now you see our flight plan looks a little different here. We're going to go ahead and drag this down so we can see all of the whole route and see the changes that were made here. Okay, so actually I could shrink this down here, right here, so we can actually see more of the route. Okay, so we see here that instead of just flying direct, now we're going to the Troy intersection, then to Spinner, then Piatone, and then Chicago Heights. Okay, and flying those. And you could add in other different waypoints along the way. I just wanted to show you where you can make those changes. And you can make those changes in the original one as well, you don't have to do it direct and then make the changes. You can put that in as the waypoints along when you first created it. I'm just showing you can actually put them in there afterwards along with the reversing of the route, if that makes more sense to you or works better. So this is definitely one of the great tools that I really like to use. And then I use the Navlog style too, just because that's a personal preference for me. But you can look at what works best for you and check it out, and then you see how our difference is now. And if we wanted to put our airways in, then we could do it that way as well. Okay, and you notice it makes some of these altitude changes for us. Now, if we didn't want to go at 75, now obviously we're going east, so we'd be that, and we punched in the via that we're flying VFR, so it's adding that plus 5,000, then the even, because east is the unevens, and then obviously if we were headed to the west, if we would reverse our route, then it would give us that western heading. Now, if we didn't want this altitude, we could actually go in and change that in our plan as well. And then we could put our briefs. If we link our site to Duets, we can do that as well. And then also we can save our flights in here and have, as you can see, I have several flights that I've used in here, and then this one will be saved as well. So if I wanted to load this up, like let's say I didn't take this flight, or I took a similar flight a couple times, then I wouldn't have to go ahead and do all that flight planning again, even though it's relatively simple. But you can store your flights in there and have those as well. And it also gives you other airport information that you can find if you put it in there. If you want to find out different information about the airport or get information about it, then it's helpful that way, or it has details that you can use as well. So and then also you can put in layers if you wanted to use a sectional, or if you wanted to use IFR low chart, or so then it would change it to IFR low chart. And then if you wanted to add in radar, or if you wanted to put in the satellite or the METARs or the TAFs, all of that stuff would start loading into your system as well. And I just don't like to have it in there because it clutters it up, but you could also put it in there. And obviously I've got it marked for TFR, so if there is one in the area, then I can know about it, because we do live in the Chicago area, and with our president having come from this area, we often have TFRs that we have to be very careful about, because we don't want to get an escort back to our airport anytime soon. So anyway, also when you do get this Navlogger style, then you can also print it off there. It's very easy to do that, or you could save it into your computer, tablet, or email it to yourself, whatever works best for you. But hopefully this has been helpful to you, and have safe travels. Also, just as a side note, remember, this is just a tool to be used. This does not mean that you shouldn't think through a process. If something doesn't look right on your flight planning and isn't adding up in your head, don't go, well, the computer said so, so it must be right. Do some math in your head, think things through. Don't forget your traditional methods of using it. This is just a tool to use on top of the other knowledge that you have gained in your flying experiences that will be helpful. But I have had some students that looked at it, the computer shot back an altitude that was wrong, and they said, well, the computer said it, so it must be right. We have to fly that altitude. And remember the FAR aims, remember the regulations, remember the rules, and then also remember what you were taught by your flight instructor, and use all of that to integrate it with technology, yes, but don't rely solely on technology. That technology then surpasses what you know is right, or you're more likely to count on it than your own judgment in these areas. So hopefully this has been helpful. This is a process that I use often when planning cross countries, and I found it very good, so I wanted to share it. All right, take care and fly safe.